Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of The Monster's Den. Today, we are going to take a look and rank the film franchise called The Terminator. And we've got in the house today, we got Mr. Jamie Laszlo and Mr. Craig Kaminski. What's up, gentlemen?
What's going on?
Good evening, guys.
This is our, we've been on a nice little run doing some of these more, well-known horror sci-fi franchises of late. So we're
trying to get views, Pete.
We're trying to get views, and people like this stuff. We might take a little bit of a break for a while, but we'll circle back around because we got some of the really well-known ones that have lots of films that we haven't done yet. I mean, and we'll probably get into that in the upcoming weeks and months. Like we haven't ranked the Halloween franchise, we haven't done Child's Play, we haven't done Hellraiser, so there are others out there. We haven't done Star Wars. I mean, so there's others to do, but as everybody watching knows, when you rank a film franchise, even if you've seen these films many times, we generally like to go and rewatch them again, right? Because it's better when they're fresher in your mind. So, yeah. And that takes time, obviously. So
you like to take notes.
And take notes, all that good stuff. So yeah, we will circle back on more franchise ranking shows in the not too distant future, but we got plenty of other topics to cover in the weeks ahead. So stay tuned for more on that. So we're going to get started. So we're going to go Jamie, Craig, myself. We're going to start at number 6 and work our way back to number 1. I will say, I'm just going to throw it out there right off the bat, that I rewatched all these films again. Actually, one I had never seen before, believe it or not. That was the most recent one. So I saw that for the first time. I don't dislike any of these. And I found all of these, even though some of them have their faults and some of them a lot of faults, they're a lot of fun to watch regardless. So I'm just going to throw that out there right now. And because I know there's people out there who probably dislike some of these, and I don't hate any of these at all. So, but I rank them, accordingly. So Jamie, with that being said, kick us off with your number 6.
Honestly, dislike 1.
Okay.
1. I'm going with number 6, Terminator Genesis, which is the 5th in the series.
Genesis.
I never saw 5, and I'd never seen 6 until I had to do this exercise.
Did you say Genesis? Is that?
Yes.
Okay, that one's 5. That's 5.
Yeah, but it's coming in at my number 6.
Oh, gotcha.
Yes. This movie's a mess. I can't follow the plot. I don't know what's going on. It kind of lost me when what's his name? Reese. Sorry, Reese. Forgot his name for a second. When he started to remember 2 timelines at once, one he didn't live, the other one he lived. At that point, I was like, you know what, movie? Do what you want to me. Throw at me what you want. I'm sitting here. I got my nachos. I got my chair. I got my Sprite. I'm comfortable. I'm enjoying myself. Just get me to the end of this movie. What you want to do between now and then, whatever. So, yes. Too many WTF moments. A lot of things I've already seen, like a Terminator rising from the fire. Seen it. Terminator mimicking someone else. Seen it. Liquid metal. Seen it. And it's crazy that this is 2015 and they first did it in 91, and the liquid metal looks the same quality wise in CGI. Looks basically the same. It does suffer from a Solo story a bit. When you watch Star Wars, a Solo story, you just sit there and go, that's not Han Solo. And I sit there and go, that's not Reese. That's not Sarah the whole time. Now, the chick who plays Sarah doesn't do a bad job, but this guy that plays Reese, Jai Courtney, one of the most boring actors I've ever seen on film. I don't know how he got the work he got. And if you're going to make him Reese, if you're going to send him back in 1984, you have to give him the 1984 action hero hair. You need, where it's a little feathered, but kind of spiky. It's not a full mullet, but it's a mullet in training.
Half mullet.
Yeah, half mullet. You got to give him that hair. You got to sell me on this shit. You can't have like a real, crew cut type thing. And yeah, so I wasn't buying anything in this movie. And then there's a scene where a bus flips over 57 times and everyone's all right in there. Reese isn't even wearing his seatbelt. That is some nuking the fridge bullshit, right? 100% nuking the fridge. And as I always say, if you don't know what that means, Google it, nuking the fridge. So yes, coming in at number 6 is this mess. This movie's either too smart for me or just thinks it's too smart for me. I don't know which one. Because I can't follow it.
All right, my number 6, and I have this nifty Blu-ray set that includes all 6 of the Terminator films in one nice slim package.
Doesn't take up much room on the shelf.
Yeah, very nice and convenient. And as I will agree first with what Pete had said earlier, that I also do not wholeheartedly dislike any of these movies. Some I do enjoy more than others, but I didn't, unlike the Underworld movies, I did not outwardly hate any of these movies. So there is the people out there. No, I'm not going to go on a tirade this time. And there was one movie of the 6 that I had not seen before, and that is the movie that is coming in at my number 6. And it's like Jamie was reading some of my brain waves. My number 6 is also Terminator Genesis, which I had never seen before. The biggest problem I had with this, or I should say, the things I did like, I think the action for the most part was pretty good, and my subwoofer and Atmos soundbar got a workout on these. Really sounded good, nice, very good picture quality and everything. My biggest problem was that Emilia Clarke, I think, was totally miscast as Sarah Connor. And I could understand why they cast her. The director was Alan Taylor, who was doing Game of Thrones episodes. The movie came out in 2015, so Game of Thrones was still riding high. And so why not put Emilia Clarke as the heroine in this movie? And she just, I couldn't, she just didn't sell me on it. I didn't like how she did with this movie. Ironically, one of the other Game of Thrones actresses, Lena Headey, played Sarah Connor on the TV series Sarah Connor Chronicles, and I thought she was fine in that. Maybe they thought she was too old or something, for this movie. That could be, but it just, that didn't work. I agree with what Jamie said also with Jai Courtney. He was in a couple of one or both of the Suicide Squad movies, right? And he, it's like he's just meat in the room. I mean, I don't understand why he, it got kind of top billing on this movie. And there's another actor that I'll talk about shortly in a different movie, which I had the same problem with. But I didn't like the whole Pops Terminator thing with Schwarzenegger. I didn't like that they were recreating parts identical from part 1, where you had the Bill Paxton scene, wash day, nothing clean, right? They recreated that entire scene, and only to have new Arnold kill old Arnold, or however it is. And as Jamie said, there was a liquid Terminator in this. I guess that's the T-1000. And although I did, one thing I found amusing, at least, was that I guess a Terminator is an equal opportunity employer, because you had a Asian Terminator in this one, you got Latino Terminators in Dark Fate, and then you had a female Terminator in part 3. So it was it's an equal opportunity employment position for Terminators. But overall, the story was a bit confusing with the whole Genesis is like whenever they were saying Genesis, I kept thinking of a Sega Genesis, that's what was going to take over the world, so, but it was just, that one was the one that I got into the least, and it's I gave it my best, but it's not awful, but it's just my least favorite of these 6 films.
And I hated how Arnold would try to smile, and they were making that like a joke, a running joke. It didn't work the first time. Don't do it another time.
Yeah, it's I just the whole pops thing really, and then at the end, what falls into the liquid metal, and then he becomes like Robert Patrick Terminator at the end of the movie, and all the problems I think that this had with production and whatnot, where it was meant to be the start of a new trilogy, and then the studio went bankrupt, and just a mess. And they had, how many times this has had to have been rebooted and cleaned up and everything, and it's just uh, maybe if they would have gotten a part 2 out of this, I don't know, but they weren't off to a strong start with Genesis, in my opinion.
And I bought this at FYE, which
Ooh.
is a Blu-ray of Genesis. It was on clearance for $5.99. I was like, I never seen the movie, but $5.99 with the head in there and stuff.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, I took it. I never opened it. I said, I'll watch it someday. Tell you what, now that I watched it, this was a lot cooler before I watched the movie, but it's still kind of cool.
Looks
Yeah,
good
it still looks good on the shelf, Jamie.
It looks good on the
Yeah.
shelf. Yes,
Yeah.
and that's what counts.
Well, my number 6 is also Genesis. Again, I don't dislike it. It's a puzzling film at times. And I question why, I don't know why all these franchises like to do these reboot things. And it's like, can't you just kind of stick to storylines and be consistent and just kind of continue them on? One thing I realized when rewatching all these films again is that I think Linda Hamilton is a horrible actress. And I honestly did not mind Emilia Clarke in this one bit. I actually thought she was a pretty good action star. She's obviously a very pretty lady. I love the fact that she hid her accent really well in this movie. You couldn't tell that she's like British or whatever the hell she is, British or Australian. I'm not sure. I think she's British. And to me, she was believable. And I think if someone's going to be a Sarah Connor, I thought she kind of worked. And I found that after suffering through all these really bad Linda Hamilton performances, I was like, an actress who actually does a pretty good, I don't know, it just delivers her lines good. I didn't mind her relationship with Arnold as the Terminator, pops, whatever, but it was different. Did they need to go there? I don't know. And then, then the next movie is like the complete opposite again. So that was kind of strange. I agree with Jamie. They rehashed a lot of things from other movies. So you felt like this was a reboot that not only rebooted the whole idea and the whole story, but they kind of redid it as well. I mean, there was so many things that were like, all right, we've already seen that. We've already heard that. All right, whatever. But good action in it. Fairly well done. I think there's better special effects in other movies, but it wasn't terrible by any means. And it's entertaining. But you get done watching and you're kind of like, yeah, that was kind of a mess, but it's an okay mess, right? Yeah. So to me, it's clearly the weakest out of all of them, which was interesting because I fully expected another one to come in last for me, the one that I hadn't seen. And then when I got done watching, I'm like, you know what? That wasn't half bad. So, but we'll get to that in shortly, I think. So back to Jamie.
Well, I'll speak for Laszlo because he's not here. I know he would put this in last place. Dark Fate 2019. And as I watched it for the first time, I kind of put my head in Laszlo's headspace, and it was fucking scary for a moment there. But I did it, and I watched the movie kind of as Laszlo, and I could see all the things that he would bitch about, and I kind of predicted his rant. Well, we ain't getting the rant. But he's probably yelling at the screen right now. How can you not pick this as the last one?
No, right?
Well, I'm going to explain why. I understand why someone would put it as the last one. I mean, it starts right away. They kill John Connor. Young John Connor, like 14-year-old John Connor.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, they do all kinds of time loops in these movies. That really didn't happen. They'll rectify it. Well, they don't. He's dead. So it kind of just ruins T2 a little bit because, you're rooting for him to survive the whole time. And then you watch this and then said, why did it matter? He died anyways.
You've taken your central character from the first.
Yeah, and you're taking your central character out of the whole thing. No need to do that. I just watched 4 actors portray this character in a row, and you said, none of that happened. Yeah. What the hell? So and then they get this cute girl to be the new John Connor. I don't want a new John Connor. I don't think the new generation needs a new John Connor because frankly, nobody cares about this movie anyways.
Right.
I bought this for like $2. If anyone cared about this movie, it'd be more than $2 on the shelf. So yeah, a lot of it doesn't make sense. Carl is now Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's the Terminator.
Your drapery salesman.
Yes, he does drapes now. And that's part of the reason why it doesn't come in last place. But it really doesn't make too much sense because he's in this relationship with a girl, but it's not physical. But they call each other honey and they hug each other and look in each other's eyes, but they're not boning. It doesn't really make sense.
They have a kid together.
Yeah.
Because
he's a good listener.
That was her or her son, because he said he was protecting. She was being abused by her husband, and he stepped in.
Oh, I must have missed that. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Well, evidently the Terminator is in the friend zone.
Well, as he said in the movie, remember, he said, well, why is she with you? And he goes,
I'm a good listener.
I'm a good listener, and I have a great sense of humor. That part was funny,
So, yeah. And you got Danny learning how to fire like heavy guns and artillery in like a matter of seconds. A few things don't make sense. Linda Hamilton, is she a smoker? Because I feel like, I could tell right away, this woman is a smoker, man. She's 61 when they filmed this, and she looks 75.
Looks terrible. Yeah.
She looks like a lot of the bar hags I see in the dive bars going, give me another whiskey. There's no smoking in here. I've been smoking in bars.
She wasn't that old. She wasn't that old, but she just
that's what she looks like.
Well.
Yeah. She's only a few years older than me, and she looks terrible. Yeah.
Yes. But why isn't it last? Because I think it's got better action than Genesis. I think the action in Genesis is a little muffled, like they're trying to cover up Arnold's face a lot because he couldn't do the action. Arnold looks a little, even though he's older in this movie than Genesis, he looks more frail in Genesis to me for some reason. I know that doesn't make sense. But he turns on the charm, Arnold, when he's talking about the drapes, when he makes me laugh, and it reminds me why he became the movie star he became. This movie gives me those hints, and it makes me feel good again. Oh, Arnold, see, you're not a washed up hack. You still got a little bit of that magic in you.
He always has charisma, no matter what he does. He just has that dynamism, that he can bring to any. It could be a totally.
I think there's a few movies.
It could be an awful movie, but and he's not a trained actor, but he's just got something that I just think it's very relatable that people like, whether he's shooting up something or chasing a kid in the toy store or whatever.
Pregnant. Here's another thing about this movie that's really weird. So I'm watching all these movies in a row, and around movie 3, Rise of the Machines, I'm thinking, do they really have to say "I'll be back" in every one of these movies? Really? Yes. But then when they got to the 5th one and they said again, "I'll be back," it's a different person saying it all the time. I think it's Linda Hamilton saying it in this one, "I'll be back."
Yeah.
I'm going, you know what? This is kind of cool now. It's like strings all the movies together in a way. I wasn't sold on it in movie 3. Now I'm sold. You can't stop doing it. And they should do it like in like I don't know, like Easter egg fashions. If they make more of these, hopefully they don't. But if they do, like put it on a billboard in the back, or have some people playing tug of war maybe, and someone says, "I'll be front, I'll be back." Just kind of sneak it in sometimes. So, but hopefully they just don't make any more of these movies.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you gotta just give it up, right? But
my number 5, I'm going with Terminator Salvation as my number 5, and this was one where I thought that I saw it, but then when I was watching it, I know I saw parts of it, but then once I got to the end of the movie, I don't remember this, And the actor I was referring to earlier in this was Sam Worthington. I think he was still riding the Avatar gravy train, for this. I'm not, and I guess we haven't seen a whole lot of him besides those awful Clash of the Titan movies and remakes and Avatar. But yeah, some of that was a little, the story with that was a little confusing. Again, really, I think decent action. I didn't have any complaints about that or anything. I thought that Anton Yelchin as Reese, it seemed like he was too young and he couldn't really do anything. He wasn't as crafty as the Reese that we came to know in the first movie, and the good soldier. I mean, I understand it's supposed to be a backtrack and everything, but a little bit of more points though to give for having Michael Ironside in this movie. That was good. I liked seeing him, although he's stuck in a submarine the whole time. So that was probably an easy job for him. But overall, it was. I mean, it was all right, and I didn't outwardly hate it or anything. But again, it's just I had some issues with the story and everything, and it just was a little wishy-washy at parts, and I just I liked some other ones better. So yeah, I'm going with Salvation as my number 5.
More on that in a little bit. I'm going to go with Dark Fate as my number 5. And this is the film that the only one I had never seen before. I was expecting to really hate it because, we've all been talking behind the scenes over the last couple of weeks, and Mr. Laszlo is like, oh, it's the worst movie out of the whole series. It's terrible. So I was like, all right. So I had no expectations. It's the one that I watched last because I've seen all the others. I rewatched them all, and I was like, I'll save Dark Fate for last. And you know what? Yeah, I mean, the beginning doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. And there's just, they bring back, you mentioned Salvation before. So you had Sam Worthington, who plays this kind of like half like hybrid human machine type of thing, right? What is this, Underworld all over again, right?
And he doesn't even know he's a machine.
Yeah, exactly, right? So now in this film, you got a female version of him, right? It's the blonde chick. I'm trying to remember what her name was. Is that Mackenzie Davis, I think? She's like really tall, thin, really short hair. And she's not a very good actress either. I mean, she's just like got crappy lines throughout the whole movie. She doesn't show much emotion or anything like that. So she now is this kind of like, she's got this, contraption in her belly. She's half human, half machine. And now all of a sudden, yeah, they kill off John Connor. Then you have this the Hispanic girl who now she's the one that all the Terminators are looking for. You've got the new Terminator now, who is the guy who played Ghost Rider in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show. Good actor, right? So he's now the Terminator now. And then Linda Hamilton's back, and like you said, she looks like 100 million years old, and she's still a terrible actress. Every time she opens her mouth, I'm like, God, she's awful. It's like we didn't mind it much in her early films, right? But as the years progress and you see her in more movies, you're like, God, she's not getting any better. However, I think and some of the CGI doesn't look great in this film. It looks very video game-ish, but I guess that's how a lot of them look. But there's a lot of good action in the movie. There's a decent amount of like fight scenes and catastrophic things going on. And I gotta say, I absolutely love Arnold Schwarzenegger in this movie. He's like this. He's the same Terminator we always knew. He's kind of older and broken down, but he's happy. He's living in the woods with this new family that he has now. He's still a machine, but all of a sudden he has gotten all these human qualities that he acquired over the years, and he's delighted about it. And he's just so happy to be in having a life for the first time ever. But yet he still has all the know-how. And then there's this whole dynamic between him and Linda and Sarah Connor, because now, she finds out that he actually did kill her son, right? They reveal that at the beginning, and he's trying to make atonement with her, right? Where she's very resistant to it. They have to wind up working as a team. So now it's this little, their little merry band of misfits here, and they're trying to escape from the crazy Terminator that's after them. So they put this whole plan into effect, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, long story short, I got done watching this movie, and the ending is kind of sad because they really, spoiler alert, everybody, what seems to be, and again, I know it's hard to say in this franchise because they've never officially done it, but it seems to be at the end of the movie, he saves everybody and he sacrifices himself, and this Terminator, the Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator, according to this film, is gone. That's it. And at the end of the film, you know, you could see like Sarah Connor, Linda Hamilton looks down at him because she's pissed at him the whole movie and doesn't want to work with him and wants to kill him. And she finally looks down. It's like, all right, you kind of redeemed yourself. And he says right before he dies, for John, right? So in other words, I know what I did was terrible. I'm saving you and sacrificing yourself for him.
I think the texts that she got were always for John or something too, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I really like that. And I got done at the, and I know the end of the film kind of leaves it open for another film, taking it in another different direction with her and the Hispanic girl. But I'm like, I'm kind of hoping they don't do any more, because to me, as much as there were a lot of faults in this film, and it was kind of screwed up at times, especially in the first half, I really enjoyed it. And I thought I was like, you know what, this is pretty good for a film that everybody shit on. It didn't do well at the box office. And you know, everybody there, and the filmmakers are like, yeah, it was a mistake. We shouldn't have made it, blah, blah, blah. I enjoyed it. I would watch it again. And I think to me, it was a good way to kind of put a final stamp on this franchise. And I don't think it's as bad as everybody says it is. I'm sure there's going to be people in the comments like, oh, Pete, that's the worst movie.
I think the hardcore Terminator fans will hate it more. I think it's an okay movie, but not an okay Terminator movie, if that makes sense.
Could be. Yeah, you could be right. You could be right. But to me, what I really liked about it, it's like Craig said before, it's the Arnold Schwarzenegger factor in this film for me, because I think he played a great underdog, and he showed a side of himself that I don't think we've seen from him in recent years in films. He hasn't done a ton of films in more recent years, right? He's obviously much older now. He's playing a character that someone a lot younger should be playing, but you know what? He stole the movie for me. I don't really give a crap about most of the other characters in the film. Well, but he was great, I thought.
And we've already seen, as Jamie had said, not necessarily retreading, but in parts 2, 3, and 5, he said, I'm an obsolete model, and everything. And so that in part 6 he's an obsolete model too. But now that he's older, I think there's a little bit more gravitas to it and everything. And there are some funny parts in that where, first time Sarah Connor sees him, she shoots him and he's got the bullet holes. He's like, this will be hard to explain to, he's got these bullet holes in him, and everything.
When he takes him out into the shed, he goes, look, I want to show you something. He's got like 1 million guns in there. Like, how did your family not see this?
Yeah.
This is Texas. He says that was funny.
That was. So yeah, it's good. I for me, I didn't really, the whole subplot between Natalie Reyes's character and Mackenzie Davis's character, I really care. And then at the end, she actually finds out that the blonde half hybrid character is from the future, and then they see her as a child, and it's just like, oh, here we go again with this again. But sometimes they try to make these films a little too convoluted. There's too much of this, future, past, all this kind of thing. But you know what? I didn't hate it at all. I thought like the whole second half of the film was actually pretty enjoyable. I liked the end, and like I said, for me, this was a great Arnold Schwarzenegger performance. And if this is the end of the franchise, a great way for him to go out, I think. But obviously the rest of the world probably doesn't think that, because it was a complete bomb, and I know most people didn't even bother seeing it, which is a shame. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good.
I guarantee Laszlo hates the fact that he got a conscience, the Terminator, that now he sells drapes. I guarantee he hated every minute of it.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
I can hear his cries now.
I can. Wait, what was that? You guys are fucking nuts. Well, what are you gonna do? That movie fucking blows.
Well, I'm going with Salvation next. You know what? I did see this movie when it first came out to rent. But when I watched it again, I was like you. I don't remember anything. I knew it was John Connor, and I knew it was Christian Bale. But this movie's famous for mostly one thing. If you haven't seen it, it's out there on YouTube.
The blow up.
Christian Bale having a meltdown on the set because a light guy stepped onto the soundstage. That was his best moment. His best moment in this movie was left on the cutting room floor. As the rest of this movie, he's fucking boring as hell, man. His acting is just so stale and flat. But man, you watch that YouTube where he's telling that guy to fuck off. That's powerful. Everybody in that room is on edge. The helicopter crashing scene is damn good in this movie.
Yeah, it is.
That's a highlight for me. Sam Worthington is like a Jai Courtney light. He's a little bit better. I felt empathy for him at times because I did like the whole dilemma. Is he good? Is he bad? You know, some people think he's good. Some people think he's bad. I'm not sure why John Connor assumed 100% that he's bad, because didn't you have a Terminator that was your father figure when you were young? So why are you assuming right away that this cyborg is evil?
He's there to kill me.
But I like the thing at the end. There's a twist at the end, spoiler alert, that they find this signal and they think this signal can shut down the machines, but it's actually a ruse set up by Skynet. So yeah, that's kind of cool. It's an interesting take. You know, you don't have Arnold in it. Well, a fake Arnold for about 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But you know, it's an interesting take to make John Connor the lead, you know, an adult, and it's interesting, but it's a grim movie. I don't think it's a very fun movie.
Out of all of them, yeah.
Yeah, it's not very fun, but you sit there and go, I like that, but you're not like. I'll say Dark Fate is more fun than this movie.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But for some reason, I'm putting this above it.
So is Salvation the one that has like the Godzilla like Terminator like machine where it's dropping people into like the big trash bin?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
and everyone just they drop old ladies and she doesn't break a leg or anything. Right. She's fine. That's it.
Yeah, it's easy. It's definitely the darkest out of all the films, I think.
Oh, yes.
and most serious. And you know, isn't it ironic that it is that, and it's the only one without Arnold in it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's a PG-13. You know, that Salvation and Genesis were the PG-13 movies of the franchise. The rest are ours.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Craig, what do you got at number? Whatever.
My number 4 is Dark Fate, and I saw this before. I think I watched it on Stars or Epix, you know, whatever channel that it was on, and I remember it's like, no, yeah, it was all right, you know. And then I rewatched it, and kind of like you, Pete, I was like, you know, yeah, you know what, that really wasn't that wasn't as bad as I remember, and I too was being the whispers of Laszlo with oh, that movie's so terrible, and so before I'm even watching, I'm like, maybe the movie is really terrible, what, you know. And then I'm watching it and it's like, no, it's actually not that bad. But even before I was watching it, I was having I didn't remember some of the plot points of Dark Fate, but I was having Terminator thoughts where I thought, well, what happens if a Terminator does its job, you know, and you know, what happens to him then? Does he just walk the earth, you know, like Kane from Kung Fu, you know? And I was sitting there just going, yeah, what does happen? And then, well, we find out in Dark Fate where CGI Eddie Furlong is eliminated rather quickly. I mean, I liked a lot of the action parts in it. I did like Mackenzie Davis in this movie, and I had to Google how tall she is. She's 5'10", because every time she was standing with Linda Hamilton and I'm sorry, what was the main actress's name? Reyes, something you said, something Reyes.
Yeah, hold on, I'll tell you in a second. Yeah, her name is Natalia
Reyes. When she was standing next to her, I mean, she just towered above them, and I thought, my God, is she like 6? I was like, man, is she 6'4" or something? You know, and it's like, and I had to look it up. Now she's 5'10", and but I remember her from other shows. She was on a show called *Halt and Catch Fire* that was on AMC, which about the early days of computers, which I thought was pretty good. But anyhow, I thought she was decent enough. She was the Reese, obviously, in this movie, you know, sent to protect not Sarah, but this other person. The one part I did think was funny, where it was other than kind of like that I yelled at the TV when it happened, was when Natalia Reyes says, oh, well, I'm supposed to, I guess, you know, you want to save me because I'm going to have my son is going to be the leader of the rebellion. And it's like, well, no, we don't care about your son. You are that. And then Linda Hamilton actually says, you're John, or something in that. And as soon as I said it out loud to the TV, I was like, I get it.
Yeah.
I understood, what that was. Just like, Mackenzie Davis is Reese in this movie without having to have Kyle Reese, I get it. But I like the action scenes in this. I mean, especially in the right at the beginning when Mackenzie Davis is fighting the Terminator in the factory, where she's just wailing him with a hammer, right in the head, and everything, and they're throwing each other around. I mean, it was I liked a lot of those parts. And as we've all said, I like the Arnold parts in this are much more palatable to me than the Arnold parts from Genesis. So yeah, I enjoyed this more the second go round when I watched this. So yeah, my number 4 is Dark Fate.
Cool. Salvation from 2009 is my number 4. And I saw that in the theaters, and I've seen it actually multiple times. And I agree with Jamie. I think that Christian Bale could have been like really something special in this film, and he's kind of not.
He's a good actor.
I like him a lot as an actor. I just I don't know. He's just kind of there. It's like he should be kind of like the main star of this film, and instead Sam Worthington kind of is, and he's kind of a dull actor. I don't dislike him. He's just kind of dull. He was kind of dull in Avatar. He was kind of dull in the Clash of the Titan films, and it's just weird. He's another guy. He should be better than he is. It's got.
Is he still working?
I haven't seen him in anything in ages. He popped up in some shitty B movie I saw like a year and a half ago. I was like, oh, that's that Sam Worthington guy. Where's he been?
Well, I assume he's in the new Avatar movie. I saw the trailer for that when they during Thor. So I don't know.
I don't even remember seeing him in the trailer. Was he in the trailer?
I don't know.
I wonder if he's not even in the film. I don't know.
Ooh, dude got the boot.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sigourney Weaver was in the trailer. I remember that.
Oh,
I think they showed her.
Yeah. But there's good casting here. Bryce Dallas Howard is in here. I always like her. She's always really good. Got Helena Bonham Carter and a whole bunch of other people. And it's a well shot movie. It is dark and grim and cold and not a fun film, but I don't mind that because I like that kind of stuff. So to me, this is like the sleeper Terminator film, kind of like the first film to an extent, because it's just really serious. And, there's a lot of time spent in this film on destruction and, the Terminators just setting out on their missions and just killing people and whatnot. And you get to see, the Terminators themselves look amazing in this film, I think. I don't know. I like this film. It's missing Arnold, though. I mean, I really like consistency in these franchises. And one of the things that I think is a minus for me on all of these films is like you got in almost every single movie, you got different people playing the same characters constantly.
It's the same John Connor throughout every movie.
Right. I mean, I get it when you can't come to terms with actors or they get too old or some shit like that. I get that. But it's like, man, it's all over the place. It's like, Linda Hamilton will play Sarah Connor some of the time, but not all the time. You got other people. It's like, Jesus, John Connor's different in every single film. Reese is different. It's just kind of crazy. But throughout all of it, you usually have one constant, and that's Arnold Schwarzenegger. So he's really missing here, I think. But I still enjoyed it. When I first saw it, I enjoyed it rewatching it again. So it's kind of, for me, it's right in the middle of the pack, but I like it. It's a good film. It's different.
And that chick looks good. Moon Bloodgood, whoever the hell.
She looks great.
Oh yeah, yeah,
really good.
Yeah. Moon Bloodgood. Yeah, that's her name. Yeah. So, all right.
Sounds like a doom metal band.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, exactly. Number 3.
It's going to be number 3. Rise of the Machines. I don't think this is a bad movie. Is there anything in this movie that elevates it to like, wow? No, but is there anything that really drags it down? No, just a solid sci-fi action movie. And Arnold this was 2003. Arnold still looks like Arnold at 56. You know,
Yep.
he looks like the Arnold from T2.
Yep, he does.
And then when I was watching this, I'm like, 2003, huh? And that's what Arnold looks like. And I'm thinking of what he looks like now. Thinking, man, I've been in Columbus a long time. I've been with my wife for a long time because I don't have kids. And kids are a measuring stick, you know. They go to school, they graduate, they go to college, they have kids. You're a grandfather, kind of your measuring stick throughout life. I don't have that. I got Arnold, I guess. So yeah, and he needed a hit right before this came out. I looked at the movies that came out beforehand. Yeah, Jingle All the Way, which has this little cult following of adults who were kids when it came out and they still like it for some reason. But yeah, that Batman and Robin, End of Days, Sixth Day, Collateral Damage, dude needed a hit. Yeah. And this was a huge hit. I looked at what it earned. It earned a lot of money. I don't remember it being that big. I forget how much it made. But
$433 million
worldwide. Yeah, that's a lot of money. Almost T2 numbers.
I think that was the last movie he made before becoming governor then.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. All right. Probably makes sense. But I like that it opens up with the naked Terminator coming, but it's a hot chick.
Yeah.
Hot blonde. And you can tell dudes made her because she has boobs that can get bigger.
She inflated them.
We put in the boob enlarger. Make sure you put that in. I do like the beginning. I think it's got decent bits where he walks into a bar again, Arnold this time as the Terminator, and this time it's a strip joint, and they got the dude, a gay dude stripping for the women, and Arnold, of course, he wants clothes, and the bit works. He goes up to the guy and says, "Take off your clothes," and he goes, "Have patience, honey."
Have patience.
That's fucking funny. And then when he walks out, is he gonna put on the sunglasses? He got the star kind of gay guy sunglasses. Hilarious.
And steps on them then.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, you know what? This is a big budget film. It feels big. People took some time and care into the script, to make sure you had a good time. It doesn't feel, because he didn't want to do another Terminator movie. They weren't planning on doing another one, I think, for a while. And then it doesn't feel thrown together, It feels solid, like it belongs here. It's a trilogy that kind of belongs, is what it feels like. So, yeah, there is one thing in this movie that I caught, and I don't know if it's intentional or not, but John Connor asks Claire Danes. He says about her father, he asks, and says, "Who is he? What does he do?" And I sat there and I went, did he just ask her, "Who is your daddy and what does he do?" Pretty much did. So I don't know if they threw that in on purpose or
at least he didn't say, "What's your name? Who's your daddy? Is he rich like me?" Or something like that.
But that's a famous quote from Kindergarten Cop. If you don't know out there.
Cool.
Yeah, my number 3 is also Rise of the Machines, and I honestly feel a little guilty having it where it's at, because truth be told, it's not far behind my the number 2 movie, which I'll talk about soon. But this was one of only two of Terminator movies that I saw theatrically. I saw Judgment Day and Rise of the Machines in the theater. That was all. And as Jamie said, yeah, that opening scene with him getting his clothes is funny. Just seeing his vision where the fat lady is up to him and it says what inappropriate, or something. And
the gags are really good in this film, actually.
Yeah. Extra care.
The leather jacket that he wears. And when I was watching, I was like, that is a really nice jacket. When I was watching, I was like, you know what? That's a cool looking jacket. I like the female Terminator in this movie. TX, I believe, is her and she's even more souped up than the T-1000, Robert Patrick Terminator from Judgment Day. The fight scenes that she has with Arnold are great, especially in the close quarter bathroom where they're like picking up sinks and hitting each other in the head with them and everything. She at one point she twists herself around or turns her legs like backwards. When she's fighting him, she has a great outfit on, great leather outfit on throughout the movie. the truck scene where she's driving the wrecker truck is phenomenal, and that is not it is on par with the truck scene in Judgment Day, where Arnold and Eddie Furlong are on the motorcycle and he's turning around and shooting it. That is a great scene where she turns the crane around and Arnold catches it and is crashing through all these buildings. I mean, some of the things that I had read about this was saying, oh, it's a rehash of part two, that it has a lot of the same things that part two has in it, with the plot and some of the action and everything. But you know what? I was totally fine with that. And I, was very much entertained with this. It's a tight running time too. It's only an hour and 45 minutes. T2, I think, is a little too long at 2.5 hours, but very entertaining. And I again, I feel almost kind of guilty putting it at the spot that I have it, but the nostalgia factor takes over for my top two. But it's a close to my next movie. So yeah.
You feel guilty because you think you should put it higher?
Yeah, I just, because when I got done watching that and again going through the other ones, I was like, you know what, that's a really good movie. And it's like, but again, when I get to number two, which I enjoy, the second movie, that in my ranking, which I enjoy a lot too, but I have some problems with that one as well. If I want to, as Martin Popoff said earlier, I was watching the contrarian, or no, it was the ranking that Pete, you and Martin did with Van Halen, where he said, I'm going to put my old man, cranky thing, where I love these albums, but I'm going to complain about some of these things on them. That's what I'm going to do, like with with my film that ranks number two.
Yeah, I mean, Rise of the Machines is my number three as well. And I totally get what you're saying, because I think if it wasn't for the first two films, as great as they are, we'd be hailing this film as a sci-fi classic. I really enjoy Rise of the Machines a lot. And I think the special effects are dynamite. The cast is great. The action is great. I mean, what's not to like about it? The female Terminator is awesome. Arnold is great in this. Yeah, and this is what did we say the year? 2000? What year was this?
2003.
So this is kind of like the height of the spectacular looking CGI stuff, right? This is where CGI really started to come into its own right around this time. And man, this film looks dynamite. And I watched these last week and I was like, man, this is even better than I remember. And I've seen it, a few times, but I hadn't watched it in quite a while. So yeah, part of me was like, I would love to rank this higher than number three. I unfortunately can't, but it's not far behind my number two, I don't think.
And that's what I felt too.
Yeah.
Interesting to see what everyone got as 1 and 2.
Yeah.
How this plays out. Don't tell me yet.
Yes. Yeah. All right, Jamie, what do you got?
I don't know what direction you guys are going to go, but I'm going to go with T2 as my number 2. It's close. I got the 4K. It's supposed to be the worst 4K ever made. That's what everybody says. I'm not dumb like everyone says. I'm smart. Sorry. I went into Fredo mode. But I guess they altered some things. There's a knife scene where in the original you can see it bend a little bit because it's rubber. They fixed that. There's some stunt guys where you can, at least one where you can see the stunt face instead of Arnold. They fixed that and put Arnold's face on there. So the purists out there are bitching about that. Yeah. Me, I don't care. Clean it up a little bit if you can. You don't have to go all Star Wars 1997 on it, but you can clean it up a little bit if you want. That's fine. The picture looks fine. I never compared it to the Blu-ray, but it looks fine. I think everyone's bitching for no reason is what I think.
Blu-ray looks spectacular, I will say that.
Yeah, the 4K looks good too. Yeah. You could buy this 4K cheap too, like $10. This was huge when it came out. You remember, guys? Yep. This was humongous. It was the talk of the town. And not only was the movie big, but you had Guns N' Roses. They haven't released an original full band electric song, heavy song, since Appetite. They had the GNR Lives and everything with Patience. It was the first full on, heavy metal at the time-ish song. You had the biggest song being released on the biggest movie soundtrack. How could you go wrong, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember everyone talking about the liquid metal, man. Have you seen this movie? I've seen it 5 times. I've seen it 4 times. I saw it once. But I know a lot of people that go to, I was at Penn State at the time, and a lot of guys in their 20s kept going back to the theater to see this movie. The CGI, watching it again today, yeah, a little bit of the effects is fake.
But for
T-1000
1991, but for 1991,
time,
that was awesome.
But I watched, one thing that stuck out is when they shoot the T-1000 and he's got the holes in it and kind of looks like metal coming out. They just look like sewn on little,
looks like teacups,
things,
like pie pans.
sewn on buttons made out of cloth is what they look like.
Yeah.
But when he comes through that helicopter window and you can see the reflection of the co-pilot in the liquid metal, that was hard to do in 1991. They put in a little extra care on that. So rated R movie, made $515 million, came in all-time number 16 for rated R movies, but I looked at everything above it came out 13 to 20 years later. So
like Deadpool and
there. Budget was only 100 million, so think about that.
And at the time, I remember them saying that the budget being 100 million, that was like astronomical.
At the
in
time.
Then came Titanic.
No movie
200.
And now it's what the
All
Avengers
Cameron.
movies have $300 million budgets,
Cameron. And mark my words, everybody thinks the new Avatar is going to flop. It's going to make a boatload. I got this feeling it's going to make a boatload, and it's going to wow people too. I don't write off Cameron ever. Speaking of which, I think he took what he had in the abyss with the water and said, all right, now I'm really going to go nuts on it with this liquid metal. You could see the progression there. It had a quote. It had a quote that every great action movie should have. It had "Hasta la vista, baby." It was the Make My Day of the 90s. The Dirty Harry Make My Day. This is what I can do without. Now, you said you're going to put your old man hat on and bitch a little bit.
Yep.
I will bitch just a little bit here. In the middle, this narration comes from Sarah Connor out of nowhere. It was a hot day that day, and I looked at my son, look at the Terminator, and I knew that he loved him. And where's this coming from? There was no narration the whole movie up to this point. Now we're going into film noir. It's jolting, but that's bickering. It whatever. I will say Joe Morton as Miles Bennett Dyson is a very good dyer. He dies very well. He acts like he's in pain very well. He really chews it up. He does a good job. But this is it's a landmark movie. I mean, it came out before Jurassic Park, which is like the landmark CGI. Yeah. This is kind of like, all right, so you got In the Core of the Crimson King is the landmark Prague album. This is kind of like Days of Future Past. So there you go.
Yeah. Cool.
And my number 2 is Judgment Day. And this movie also comes up a lot of times on movies where the sequel is better than the original. And I'll tell you, I used to be in that camp too. But really, again, from rewatching it, and I've seen this movie lots of times, and I saw this in the movies opening night at a midnight showing. And so I always remember that because the movie was so long, and we didn't get out of there till like close to 3 a.m. with previews and everything. And as Jamie had said, this movie was huge. And even just thinking back, Return of the Jedi came out in '83, and then maybe you had like Batman in '89. There was nothing other those when Batman came out in '89. That was huge, and that was it. Before Jurassic Park came out in '93, then you got Independence Day in '96, and I think it started. Everything started going up where every year, Men in Black in '97, for instance, Phantom Menace in '99, when things were these gigantic movies. Well, 1991 was Terminator 2, and for being a rated R movie and a hard R too, with all the swearing and the violence. I still do very much enjoy this movie, hence with my high ranking. My old man complaining things is just with some of the stuff with Eddie Furlong. Now I understand he's reading the lines that they gave him, but when I'm rewatching this, perhaps it's because I'm older now, but when I hear lines like, she's not my mother, Todd, and
It's worse in the beginning too.
Yeah, or just the calling moi, it's just some of the deliveries. It's like, again, maybe I don't remember even liking it too much. His performance back then, because it was his first movie. He was a totally unknown.
You have to do what I say.
Yeah, and just and he wears a Public Enemy shirt the whole movie. So
let's not sugarcoat it. He is a sucky actor. He really.
Yeah,
I mean, let's not.
He's okay. He was all right in American History X, if you've ever seen that. But what was the other one? Brain Scan. That he was in. But yeah, some of it was a little annoying with me. In one of the bonus scenes, or I don't remember, maybe it's included in the special edition where they want to kill Arnold. It's like, let's crack his head open and take his CPU out, and then she's gonna hammer it, and it's like, well, wait, he just saved you. It's like, you have no chance without him against Robert Patrick, none. I mean, so it's like, why would you go ahead and kill him? But special effects wise, I mean, for the time, I mean, as Jamie was saying with Robert Patrick and everything, I guess, did the Michael Jackson video, black or white, did that come out prior to Terminator 2? Because I think that had a lot of that morphing technology that was used, that I remember seeing that Michael Jackson video when they were doing all the morphing in that. It's like, wow, that's really neat, at the time. And some of that with this, where the roly-poly security guard, where he gets duplicated, and everything. I do love the scene though in the kitchen with your step parents are dead, your foster parents are dead, with where are you, and and everything, and yeah, so I did like that. Robert Patrick is great in this movie. He keeps his demeanor, and probably my favorite scene is right in the beginning where he confronts Arnold in the mall corridor. Yeah. And he keeps shooting. He doesn't take his eyes off, pops out a clip, pops it back in, and just keeps on going, and everything. And
they needed a really good villain because Arnold was an action hero now when this movie came out. So he can't be the bad guy now, because we see him as the hero.
And I thought
we got to get a good villain now, and they did.
And I thought it was smart to have him dressed as a police officer, because in it, he was, which diminishes what happened in one of the later movies. Is it Genesis, where the T-1000 is dressed like a cop in that, and it's like, well, wait. Robert Patrick is dressed like a cop because he was naked, and that was a police officer was the first person that he encountered. So he just took his clothes and his look and everything. But in the movie, you're conditioned in a sense, or at least in 1991, to be cooperative to a police officer. So every time he would come up to, it's like, have you seen John Connor? Can I have a picture of him? He's and he's being everyone is so cooperative with him, and I thought that was actually kind of a nice thing, that it's like, because Arnold in the first movie is very menacing and imposing, and it'd be like, stand back.
Robert Patrick reprised that as a parody in some movie.
Wayne's World, was it one of the Wayne's World 2? I think, yeah. I think it might be Wayne's World 2, because they see him or something, and he has the cop uniform on.
He's great in The Peacemaker. Is that what that show is?
I do, and again, for me at least, Rise of the Machines is just not that far behind Judgment Day. I still do like Judgment Day more, because I have that warm and fuzzy feeling of seeing this in the theater, you know, at midnight with my friends, and lots of other times hanging out with friends. When this first came out on DVD, you know, back, you know, I had the metal box version, loud as hell, you know, having that in your surround sound. It was one of the first movies I bought on DVD, and it was like, man, this is so cool, you know, having this. And here's all these bonus scenes and everything. So I have a little bit of a nostalgia factor with it, hence my high ranking. But, you know, I have a little, you know, a couple problems with some of the parts, you know, and everything. And,
Two has really high highs, but a few lows.
Yeah, or
if
just
you do the math, it comes to about here.
Where they
Three is solid all the way across, but it just comes right underneath.
Or, you know, again,
do the math.
Again, old man complaining, old man screaming at sky, you know, where it's like, you know, show Miles Dyson that you're a Terminator, and he rips his entire forearm off. I was sitting there watching that. It's like, you could have just done the finger, you know, or something, just to show you got, you don't have to, now you got to wear a glove like the whole time. I mean, he tears his whole arm off, you know. And so, but yeah, but it's still still a wonderfully entertaining movie 30 some years later. And a lot of the effects hold up. Yeah, there's a couple things that you know, that little negative to me, but you know, that doesn't discount it from being being
a flawed
movie that it is.
Well, my number 2 is The Terminator. Ooh, the first one, which I also saw in the theater. I saw the first 4 in the theater.
You really saw the first one in the movies?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Wow. In fact, I think if I remember correctly, I saw both Terminator and Terminator 2 twice each in the theaters. Oh. Yeah, I mean, you know, in 1984, I was seeing everything, because that was like right in the fall. I had just started college, and we had a in SUNY New Paltz, there is a movie theater right in town. So that's what we would do occasionally in my freshman year. It's like, you know, you go get hammered somewhere and go and watch a film. So I remember seeing that in the movie theaters and loving it, and going to see it again. You know, rewatching it again all these years later, you can tell, I mean, geez, $6.5 million was the budget. It's crazy when you think about it, right? And it made like, I don't know, 75 million or something like that. So, you know,
6.5 sounds high for 84.
It's a low budget film, but you know, he really, you know, whatever little money he had to work with, he put it to good use. And it's a dark, grim film, and it definitely feels like 80s. You know, you watch Terminator now and you're like, yeah, this totally feels like an early mid 80s, you know, sci-fi horror film, whatever. And it's like, it's of its time, but it's still really, really good. And Arnold is spectacular in it. And of course, you know, this is the one film where Arnold plays the bad guy throughout the whole thing. And, you know, the great lines are there. You know, Linda Hamilton is hot in this film. This is back when she was still kind of good to look at, right?
Still can't act.
And you almost, in this film, I almost don't mind that she's a bad actress, because she's playing a young character, and it's like she's naive and all that kind of crap. I think, you know, her performance in the second film, which I'll get to in a couple of minutes, seems very forced to me. But I think in this film, it's okay.
Bad acting works better in low budget movies than it does.
I agree with 100%. I think there's some chemistry between her and the Kyle Reese character in this film, which I kind of like. And, you know, the action sequences are great. And I love the fact that, like, the whole last half hour of the film is like, God, are they ever going to kill this thing? And he never dies, and he keeps coming back. So, you know, I remember sitting in theaters on the edge of my seat, like, this is great. It's just like, it keeps coming. It keeps coming. It keeps coming. And it was a very different kind of film for the time, which I always loved. But, you know, it's definitely not as great looking a film as some of the other ones. And that's on purpose, obviously, and it's a low budget film, but it's definitely great. I just think I like my number 1 a bit better. So, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So, Jamie, talk a little bit more about the Terminator.
Yes, my number 1, the Terminator. I didn't know if it was going to be my number 1 going into this exercise, but rewatching it, I said, yes, it's going to be my number 1. And I was thinking as I watched this, Arnold Schwarzenegger has to be one of the luckiest guys ever. And I'm going to tell you why. because his first two big movies, Conan the Barbarian and the Terminator, A, he got lucky that they're both good movies. B, he got lucky that he played a character that didn't have to have too many lines because he could barely speak English, at the time while he was starting to learn. And he didn't have to really act much, you're just a barbarian in this, and you're just the evil cyborg in this. So he really got to, get his feet wet in really good movies. And then the door opened up for him right there. If he's not in these two movies and they're trying to throw him in like some romantic comedy, which they wouldn't have done, but if they gave him something that wasn't like this, I don't know if we would know Arnold today as we know Arnold. So, and his accent works great in both of these movies because
it's so unique, right?
Unworldly. It makes him sound like he's from another world.
Yeah.
Especially in 1984 and 1980, whenever this was, 82, I think, maybe 81. So yeah, James Cameron did not have James Cameron money yet, but he did really well with what he could do. It's kind of like the Evil Dead of sci-fi movies.
He had Stan Winston though, and that he got every penny out of that budget, from that. Yeah.
And if you look at the effects, like when Arnold is doing operation on his own eye, and you can clearly see the faces.
Fake Arnold, real Arnold, fake.
Yeah, it's fake. Yeah, from what angle they do, you can clearly see it's a big fake face. You see that. But what I also see is a lot of love and passion and care put into that with what they could do at the time with the budget they have. It's hard to see that love and passion in CGI. You get wowed by the CGI. Oh my God, you can see the reflection of the guy. But you look at that and you're wowed at what they could do at the time with the money they have. It's a different kind of wow. And that is what charm is. That's the charm in these movies. There's no charm in CGI. There's charm in this kind of stuff.
Practical effects and animatronics.
Yeah, practical effects is 100% charm.
Yeah.
And miniatures. There's a lot of miniatures in this with like
stop motion.
Like Ray Harryhausen, stuff.
Yep. What do you think of the soundtrack in this film? It's really cheesy, isn't it?
It's very
1984, man. It's like,
it sounds like a low budget 80s movie.
Oh, you know what? In 1980,
adds to it.
In 1984, what was a huge movie? Beverly Hills Cop, and that had a synthesizer, sound to it, and that, or movies like Fletch. When you watch that, it's got those, keyboard.
Trying to think of the guy who did that was for Beverly Hills Cop.
Harold Faltermeyer. Harold Faltermeyer.
Oh, that's it. Yes.
Yeah.
I was not going to think of that. I was not going to remember that.
But
you're very good at remembering names, Craig. I will tell you that right now.
Brad Fiedel is the name of the guy who did parts 1 and 2. I don't know about 3.
The older I get.
But I used to have the soundtrack to Terminator 1, and that I remember buying that on CD, and I thought, oh, it's really cool to have this, and then I start listening to it.
Yeah, without the movie.
I'm never listening to this again.
I was like, what was I thinking?
Yeah. But I tell you what, it's directed well. It doesn't have the big stunts from 2 and 3, but it doesn't need it because I think Cameron really adds a lot of tension in the way he paced this movie and directed it. You feel like, oh my God, you're on the edge of your seat. I will say one thing, every time I watch this, I'm like, okay, so John Connor can only exist if Reese goes back in time, bangs Sarah, and dies. But if he dies, how can he exist in the same timeline in the future as John Connor? Someone explain that to me.
Well, he hasn't been born yet, or he's very young. It's like the 12 Monkeys thing, where Bruce Willis is.
While that all is going on, there is.
Bruce Willis sees himself as a young kid, you're still you. It's like a Total Recall. You are not you. You're me. But he's still in that timeline. But it's not like he hasn't been created yet or something like that. Like a paradox where you've killed your father before you're born, because that's what they're trying. That's the whole plot, of kill Sarah Connor so she will not have John Connor, in the future.
Cool. I'm still confused. But go.
But yeah,
But yeah, it's my number.
But yeah, I mean, it's as you're saying with practical effects and just really good thrills. I mean, hell, just watching that now, the scene where Arnold punches through that windshield, that's great now. You know, even watching that, yeah, it doesn't have liquid metal coming through and everything, but it's still great. At the end, when you got nothing left, and the metal skeleton Terminator is coming, and you're just beating it with a metal bar. I mean, it's like, he knows he's gonna die, and it's like he's just beating that thing, and then it's crawling after her.
That's great.
Like you said, it's like, first time I saw this on cable or on like HBO Cinemax or
VHS
whatever,
for me.
when I was younger. And I mean, now you take these things for granted. It's like, well, geez, the movie's not over yet, it can't be dead. But back then you watch that and it's like, man, he blew up that truck, there's no fucking way that Terminator's coming back. And then it rises up and has the limp. It's limping after him. Then they blow it up, it's crawling after him. I mean, it's just, I've always loved this movie. The whole scene with Arnold buying weapons, I can quote that entire part. Phase 2 auto, the 12 gauge autoloader, 45 long slide with laser sighting. It's like, that's a good gun. And I always like that Dick Miller says any of these are good for home protection. After he already said the Uzi 9mm. I mean, it's like he's buying these gigantic guns. These are good for home protection in 1984. It's like, no, this is to overtake a small country, or something. But I love those scenes, and Sarah Connor's hot roommate.
Yeah.
Nice, and everything. I mean, and some comedy in this, from the roommate's boyfriend when he phones her up. First, someone unbuttoned her blouse.
Oh yeah.
Then she's like, "Who is this?" And then it's like, gives the phone to the other girl. First, someone unbuttoned. He starts doing the whole thing again. I mean, it's funny. Arnold doing the appropriate responses. Yes, no, go away, fuck you, asshole. I mean, just laugh out loud stuff where they didn't give him a whole lot to do, especially in Terminator. He had more lines and things in Conan, Conan the Barbarian, and in Conan the Destroyer especially too. But he does great in this as the unfeeling machine that has one purpose and everything.
Yeah.
Michael Biehn is great. The police interrogation scene with where he's yelling at the camera and everything. And then you got some side actors, Lance Henriksen, Paul Winfield, Bill
Paxton, for crying out
Bill
loud.
Paxton
Oh,
doing,
yeah.
the little smart, the little scene there. Fun fact, during the flashback scene that Reese has, where the other Terminator comes through and is shooting, that's Franco Columbo, Arnold's Mr. Olympia friend, who was also in Conan the Barbarian very briefly for a few seconds. So I love this movie, and again, rewatching it on Blu-ray, which I'd never seen it on Blu-ray. I'd always just seen it on DVD or on lots of times on TNT or whatever it's being shown at. Seeing it again on this I was like, wow, this is really, it's a little grainy in parts and everything, and but just holds up really well. Last thing, one of the bonus scenes that was deleted out, I wish they would have kept it in for the first movie that I watched on here, where after at the end of the movie, where they find the Terminator arm, and everything, and then you see the outside of the factory that they were that the whole sequence, and it says Cyberdyne Systems in there, and I was like, that's probably would have been something cool to keep in there, but it was probably a budget restraint, or something. But that was a cool little bonus scene that I kind of wish they would have tacked in there. But yeah. always holds up really well for me. Still not my favorite Arnold movie. I mean, I still like Conan the Barbarian and Predator a little bit more, but
I am a sucker for Kindergarten Cop.
I like that too. Yeah, I mean, he's got a great his track record. Most of his movies from Conan up through Last Action Hero, and then I never saw that one. True Lies was great, but almost all those movies, it's like they're just really entertaining. Predator, Raw Deal, Red Heat, Total Recall. I love. Yeah.
I feel like his career really took off with The Running Man.
Yeah,
that was like the.
Yep, I love that one too. Saw that in the movies.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you guys have said, and to me, I think that the first three films are just really, really, really good to great. And I love the first film, but I think for me, Terminator 2: Salvation, really special for me.
Judgment Day.
Oh, what did I say? Oh, yeah, Judgment Day. That's what I meant. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, it's been a long day. Yeah, I mean, that's again, I saw it in the theaters a couple times. I've watched it many, many times, and when I rewatched it again recently on this new Blu-ray set, I was like, man, this film still looks amazing. It's so much fun, and I even get past the overacting of Linda Hamilton. It's in this movie that I really, I'm watching this, I'm like, man, you know what? She kind of sucks. And it's a shame because I love everything else about this movie. I just
grizzled.
Yeah, it's just now all of a sudden they got her locked up and she's screaming and ranting and raving and all this.
That dickhead doctor.
She's doing chin-ups and
yeah, it's just like, all right, lady, you're not impressing me, man. It's like, I don't know. And Edward Furlong, he's a shitty actor too. But you know what? I don't let that ruin it for me because I just think this is a great movie. It's so much fun. It's like nonstop. The movie takes you on a journey and it just never lets up. Groundbreaking at its time. The effects are great. Arnold's great in it. Robert Patrick is so good. The battles all throughout are amazing. It's one of the great like sci-fi action movies of all time, I think. And to me, it just inches the first film here in my ranking in this series. And it's always so, this is one of these series that, and I think I kind of learned this in rewatching everything to do this show. It's like there's a lot of like repeat watch value in this series. Whereas like some of these other franchises, you have this certain films in the series where you're like, all right, yeah, that's okay. I don't know if I ever need to watch that again. And I have my favorites and I have my least favorites. I got done rewatching all these and I'm like, I may just do this again in like 6 months to a year, and some of these films I hadn't seen in quite a long time. And I'm like, yeah, I really dig these. These hold up really well, I think. So, and that's, I think, a testament to the creators and a lot to Mr. Schwarzenegger, I think.
Not even Guns N' Roses, You Could Be Mine ruins it for you.
Yeah, I know. That kind of tests my patience a little bit. And it's funny because I watched that like literally about a week after I saw the new Thor film, which has like 4 or 5 Guns N' Roses songs in it.
Yeah,
like,
and the kid wanted to be called Axel.
Oh my God. I was like, you got the posters on the wall wearing the t-shirts. I'm like, who's how many naked pictures do they have the creators of this film?
There's nothing wrong with a little GNR.
Oh my God. But yeah, T2 Judgment Day is my number one. But yeah, a lot of good stuff here.
Same thing. I had not sat down to watch from start to finish. Even the movies that I was, the first 3 that I'm most familiar with in a really long time. And yeah, like you said, they're all solidly entertaining, and even the ones that I have down at the bottom, for me, they weren't abysmal. I mean, it's just that some are better than others. Yeah. So it's a decent franchise, unlike some other ones that we've gone over.
Yep, I agree. Cool. So there you have it, everybody. Terminator franchise ranked. You know how it goes in the comments below. Please rank them as you like them. All right, all 6 of them, or whichever ones you've seen. I would suggest if you haven't seen a couple of these, go check them out. You might be pleasantly surprised at some of the few that you haven't watched before.
And rewatch 3 if it's been 20 years.
Yeah. So, Cool. Well, thanks everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together all the damn time. Stay tuned next Thursday for another episode of The Monsters Den. For Jamie Laszlo and Craig Kaminski and Rich Catino and Chris Allo and Dan Brown and Davey Gallagher. Thanks for watching. I'm Pete Pardo. We'll see you all next week. Take care. Bye-bye.